Hey everyone, my name is Matthew Torres, and I'm the host of the Storytime Guide podcast. Join me for a weekly discussion about all things pop and geek culture. When you tune in, you'll hear me talking movies, TV, books, comics, gaming, with an extra emphasis on Latino representation in pop culture, anything in the horror genre, and if it's got superheroes, I'm talking about it. Sometimes with an amazing group of guests. Whether you're an expert or new to any of those things, I guarantee you're gonna have a good time. It's March 13th, and today on the show we talk about our favorite Nicolas Cage movies. I honor the great Pokemon show as it nears its conclusion, and then we head to the vault. It's story time. And before we get started, I just want to give my thanks and congratulations and my love and my admiration to one of the greatest things ever created. It's not sliced bread. It's not the automobile. It is Pokemon Pocket Monsters. For those of you that don't know, after 26 years of the Pokemon anime existing and loving and making its way into our hearts and the hearts of billions, if not trillions of people, it's coming to an end with Ash and Pikachu. So they're going to continue the show with a new cast of characters, but this is going to be the first time in the 26 years it's been running nonstop for 26 years, okay? They've gone through multiple seasons and multiple characters have come and gone, but always Ash and Pikachu have stayed. And finally, Ash and Pikachu are going to retire. They're sending their goodbyes. Team Rocket's going away. It's all done. Goodbye. I'm trying not to cry and get emotional here, but like for me, this means the world. It's like you're finally watching a friend get their flowers. You're finally watching a friend sit down. Like, you know, you ever seen, like, it's like watching your uncle or your dad who's been like working their whole life, and you see them come home day after day and they're getting older, and it doesn't mean they're getting worse, they're just getting older, and then they're finally like, look, you know what, I'm putting my gloves down. It's like an athlete retiring, and this is what this feels like. Pokemon, I'm still gonna watch it, and to be clear, I have watched all of Pokemon for the last 26 years. Pokemon X and Y, specifically Pokemon XYZ this season, was the best. That finale was wonderful with Zygarde, with the tournament. The whole show has been building up to this. If you guys haven't been keeping up, let me just kind of talk about the best part of all this. So, for the last 24 years, Ash is trying to catch them all. They got rid of that plot. They said, no, he's not going to try to catch them all. He's going to try to be the Pokemon World Champion. So for the last 20 years, Ash has been trying to win all the badges, beat all the tournaments, go to all the events, become the Pokemon champion. And you're thinking, oh, how's that going for him? Not well. He's never done it. For years, he wouldn't even get past the group stages. He'd be like top 50, and then he was like top 20. And then he was the top 10. And then he finally gotten to the quarterfinals. And then you got to wait 3-4 years for the next tournament. And then he gets to the semifinals and he loses and he loses and he loses. And in Pokemon XYZ, he finally got to the finals. We got a sick 3-episode match between him and Alan. And they fight, and Greninja and Pikachu. And then Ash loses. He gets second place. And you're like, can this boy just win? And finally, in the Alola region, they give him his kind of championship. He did win it, but it's not the world championship. It's his first tournament one that he got first place. So after 20-something years, in the last 2-3 years, the Ultimate Journey, or the new season, it's had Ash go to... it's building up to his getting his best team together, getting his, everything, doing all the characters from the last 25 years. If you've watched in the 25 years, any part of it, those characters come back. From Clem, from Misty, from Brock, to everyone comes back. It's beautiful, it's sad, it's nostalgia every episode, and it's about Ash finally going to the World Championships, going to the tournament, and he finally, with Pikachu at his side, he wins. It is so sad. It's so beautiful. It's so emotional. And once that happened, and once he won, the Pokemon announced that they were doing their final season. The final, I think it's 12 episodes, the goodbye, the saying goodbye to the characters, to Team Rocket, to the Pokemon that he's missed, to Butterfree, to Pidgeot, to all of these characters. So Ash can finally just have his life. God, I'm getting sad thinking about it. It's so beautiful. It's so cool. If you haven't watched Pokemon, it's not yet in English. It's only in Japan. It's just finishing up in Japan, which means you're going to have to probably wait about 3 to 6 months. So in 3 to 6 months, you'll probably hear me talk about this again. But yes, Ash, Pokemon, Pikachu, they're finally retiring. Their season, their series is over. We're going to get some new characters. We're going to get a brother and sister. There's a new Pikachu, Captain Pikachu's coming. Things are wonderful. But if you've been a Pokemon fan or you want to go back, about 3 to 6 months, unless you want to watch it in Japanese, you're going to see a lot of nerds and weeaboo and anime fans and Pokemon fans crying over the next few weeks and days and months, because to this is our best friend. This is a character that we've grown up with and seen finally just calling it and saying, hey, I'm done. So I just wanted to give thanks to Pokemon, the Pokemon Company, for their games, their anime, their movies, their characters they've created, everything. They even have an episode in the recent season about a podcast. Gotta say, really wonderful all around. Shout out to the actors, Zena Robinson, who voiced Go in the new season. I know you personally. You did a great job in the show. To everyone and everything, and to the future actors that are taking over, I'm so proud of all of you. You guys deserve this. We're gonna have a good time with the new Pokemon show, and that's my intro. I guess it's not a rant. I guess just saying thanks to something that I hold dearly in my heart for pretty much my entire life. Hey everyone, tomorrow Renfield comes out and we will be discussing it once we've seen it. But we didn't want to pass up an opportunity to discuss the great Nick Cage. So I've invited some friends to rank their top 5 Nicolas Cage movies, or as they would say in France, Nicolas Cage. That's not true. I'm sorry to all my French listeners. Welcome, Juan and Carlos. Making their Storytime debut. Christian, thank you for joining us. We got a panel of amazing people. Let's discuss, starting at our top 5, the greatest Nicolas Cage movies. Christian, you're new here. Start. What's your favorite Nick Cage movie?
Number 5 is going to be National Treasure. And I have a good reason behind it. Because it was, as a kid, a movie that introduced me to a softer side of Nicolas Cage, a more like adventure movie Nicolas Cage. It felt very like Nicolas Cage trying to do like an Indiana Jones type thing. And I thought that was a lot of fun, especially as a kid, especially as like a foreigner. It was like, oh, you can go and just steal the Declaration of Independence. And it was very clear to me that no, only Nicolas Cage could make that happen.
Because when you tried to do it, you got in trouble for it.
When I tried to do it, we can't talk about that on the podcast. I'm sorry. But yeah, no, I think that's like a good starting point for like people who are not very familiar with Nicolas Cage, because he is typically like a lot in that movie in a good way, but a little toned down where like the whole family can actually enjoy the eccentricities of Nicolas Cage. So I'm going with National Treasure for number 5.
Juan, you have that on your list as well?
I have that in a surprising location on my list. Yep. You got it. You got it. Number 1.
That's not on my list because I like crazy, eccentric Nicolas Cage. I like when he's absolutely unhinged. Before I say, or I'm just gonna say mine, and one you can add stuff. Wicker Man. I love the Wicker Man. The Bees is one of the greatest memes of all time. Him being absolutely unhinged is great, and I love the fact that they took the Wicker Man, which is it's a reboot, to be clear, of a very serious horror film, and they rebooted it with Nicolas Cage, who absolutely took that. And the thing is, for all of its faults, it's a good movie. It's a great story. It's really messed up and dark. But you just remember Nick Cage putting on a bear suit and punching someone in the face. So to me, I'm like, well, how many times are you going to see Nick Cage dress up in a bear and punch a woman in the face? Not many times. That's why my number 5. If no one's seen Wicker Man, they're like,
I want to see it now. Is this
acid? Like,
yes. Yes.
It is. That was like my other pick for number 5 for a sec. I was like, it's either Wicker Man, because he is insane in that movie, or it's National Treasure. But that is, if anybody has not seen that movie, I highly recommend watching it, even if it's just for like the sake of watching like a very bad movie that's just enjoyable in some ways. If not, you'll have a lot of fun either way.
And Carlos, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Does anybody else have this on their list?
So
Juan has it on the list. Okay, so we can save it until we get to Juan's placement on the list, because Juan, do you have a number 5 as well?
I have a number 5, and it was a toss-up because they're both recent. I was between Willy's Wonderland and Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, because I am a defender of Willy's Wonderland. But
it's a good movie.
I went with Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I loved it. I love how it encompasses Nicolas Cage's whole career, but it also allowed him to just have fun and poke fun at everything he's done. And of course, the bromance with Pedro Pascal, amazing. I mean, the Paddington 2 scene alone. That alone should have been the best picture clip.
That was good. That was it.
Amazing. Yes.
Cinematic. Yes. Loved it.
All right. Well, what's your number 4 then? If that's number 5, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
There you go.
There we go.
Okay, so let's talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. He has a small role in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. He's Spider-Man Noir. And when I saw him first show up and I heard his voice, I was instantly like, all right, this is cinema. Love it. Here for it. Best Spider-Man character. Like, I went all out for it. And it's so him. It's tailored to perfection. I forgot about Spider-Man Noir. And now I will forever remember Spider-Man Noir. Thanks to Nicolas Cage. Like, his performance is awesome. I have no idea if he's in the sequel to Spider-Verse.
He should be, I think.
He
I think
should be.
I think everyone's coming back.
He should be, hopefully. Because I want to hear what he does next. I think he's just fantastic.
Yeah, so
right.
it was my number 5, and very similar to what you were saying about Unbearable Weight. There is the Nick Cage of it, like where that meta presence of Nick Cage, where he's making fun of what we all know about his essence, and yet it's incorporated into the story so well that it enriches the story. And I think that's the beauty of what they did in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It's just so well done. And I was very surprised. I did not know he was in it. So when I heard his voice, I was like, oh, this movie just got 10 times better. That movie's already fantastic. So great addition. Yeah. Should I go with my number 4?
Yes. What's your number 4?
My number 4, and this is a little bit of recency bias, but late 90s Cage. It's a very specific Cage where he's in these blockbuster movies, but he is at 11, and yet it fits into the story. Mine is Snake Eyes. I think it's just really great Brian De Palma film where Brian De Palma is trying out all these tricks. He's coming off Mission Impossible. He's in his bag, and Nicolas Cage is there for the ride. And Nicolas Cage is over the top, but he is a dirty, dirty Atlantic City cop. When he's betrayed by Gary Sinise, you feel that betrayal. And yet you can also feel like he wants to take the deal. He wants to be the corrupt cop that he is, but then he's also has this morality to him. It's really great. The way he performs it is great. That's my number 4.
I wish Brian De Palma and Nicolas Cage would have worked more together, because I feel like the sleazier Nicolas Cage is amazing always.
Mm-hmm.
And
Always.
Brian De Palma is a sleazy director in a good way. I mean that. I love Brian De Palma. So I wish that would have like kept going forever, like just that combination of two very iconic people in like the entertainment industry. But that movie is fantastic. I saw the movie as a kid and it blew my mind. It was like, damn, this is cinema.
All right, sorry. Let's continue back on the list. Let's see. Number 4. Christian, what's your number 4?
I have not said my number 4.
Yeah, Christian.
I'll go with, again, my list is just like, I want to defend Nicolas Cage, but he has a very recent movie besides the two that I already mentioned that was fantastic. And I feel like a lot of people don't give it a chance because they think it's going to be one thing, but when you watch it, in actuality, it's a completely different thing, and it's very touching. And I'm talking about Pig. I don't know if a lot of people have seen Pig.
It's
I haven't even heard of it.
It's
Pig
so
is
good.
Fantastic. If you watch the trailer, it makes you think that it's going to be like a typical like revenge movie, like almost like a John Wick type situation where this man gets his pig taken away from him and he goes crazy and he's going to, do anything to get his pig back. But when you watch the movie, it's actually incredibly nuanced, surreal, very funny, very touching. And his performance in that movie is by far one of his best performances. Like, he is absolutely phenomenal in that movie, especially as the movie goes along and you kind of start understanding what the movie's actually going for. When it hits incredibly hard, and that's due in large part just because Nicolas Cage is a fantastic actor and he can sell anything. Like, if he is convinced the project is worth his time investment and his actor chops, he will do anything to kind of push that across to the audience. And that movie is just fantastic on many different levels. That's like a recent fave that I highly recommend if you guys haven't seen.
See, I'm gonna be honest. I think all of mine, with one exception, possibly one and a half, are from the 90s, or like early 2000s, because that was to me the best Nick Cage. So my number 4 is Gone in 60 Seconds. I think it is like unbiasedly his best, just the best movie he's ever been in. Also bias. It was filmed in my hometown, so I love it. I love seeing everything. Filmed at the Port of Los Angeles. And it's super cool to see that he's in. And back then, that was like before Fast and Furious, and I feel like Fast and Furious probably wouldn't exist without Gone in 60 Seconds. I think that's a fair kind of assessment thing to say. I just love it. It's cool. It's let's go. It was Nicolas Cage. Just, he wasn't too much for the world. he was just right at the point where like he leveled out, but he gave extra. The cast was good. It really felt like the Italian Job, but Americans. Like, and I think the Italian Job remake was probably part due to Gone in 6 Seconds. So really, I think this whole like car fu, you know, as they call it in Fast and Furious, where they use cars to like do action sequences. That whole kind of thing, I think none of that would exist without Gone in 60 Seconds. So that's my number 4 pick. And it's Nicolas Cage doing good stuff. He's
Fantastic cast. Incredible cast.
I feel like
is.
it doesn't get enough credit for doing, and I genuinely think it did a lot for not only his career, but for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Fun fact, my former boss's almost favorite movie, she would bring it up at every brainstorm and she'd be like, we
All
should
the
do
time.
something like Gone in 60 Seconds. And I was like, are you serious? She's like, it rocks. And I'm like, it does, but you mention it at every single brainstorm. We're talking about like a family drama. And you're like, Gone in 60 Seconds, that's good drama. And it's like, no, that's not. That's not how that works.
She gets you guys Gone in 60 Seconds like stockings and socks every Christmas.
That would have been amazing. I wish you would have done that, honestly.
She would give motivational speeches about scripts, and she would be like, what I like about Gone in 60 Seconds, and you'd be like, how is she going to tie this to the script that I wrote her about some science fiction? Like, this is so weird. But yes, Shout out Jasmine.
Shout out Jasmine Romero.
All right, so everyone's got their number 4. Number 3, let's start with Carlos. What's your number 3?
All right, number 3. This one is right for Christian's heart because it's Wild at Heart by David Lynch. Christian, do you have it on your list?
That's my number 2.
All right, then we'll wait for number 2. But have I ever told you what this jacket means to me? It's a symbol. Oh, God, I love that movie. We will talk about it, but since it's his number 2, we will wait until then to discuss it.
Juan, what is your number 3?
My number 3 is actually because of the teenager within me. If anything, my list will show I was born in the 90s, but I chose Kick-Ass.
That's
Great.
my number 2.
There we go.
Great movie.
It's good. He's screaming. Is the kryptonite like as he's on fire? Oh man, that one's a good movie.
Dude.
All right, so I guess we got 2. Okay, so Christian, what's your number 3 then?
Oh, I'm on that 90s thing. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. I would watch it with my brother all the time. It's the most ridiculous premise ever conceived, maybe. It's Face Off.
That's
It's
my number
John-
1. That's my number. I love Face Off.
Okay, so
I
guess
love it.
It's so good. Are you kidding me? It's John Travolta and Nicolas Cage going insane.
And they're
It's
pretending
amazing.
to be each other. Like the opening scene, he pretty much has an orgasm while he's like dressed as a priest dancing with like a girl. You're just like, oh my God.
It is
like
crazy. Also, like if you change the face, the body stays the same. Like it's crazy. Like it doesn't make any sense. And I'm all for it. I'm like, hell yeah. I guess this works. Why not? Amazing movie. Amazing. And again, him at his
Amazing.
most unhinged. Like he is really going for it. At least for half of the movie. And then John Travolta takes like the lead a little bit and he's also going unhinged. Amazing movie.
Full disclosure, I did not include Face Off because I knew everyone else would include Face Off, but I love the movie, and it is peak Nick Cage. Just incredible Nick Cage. Yeah.
all right, well then we'll wait for that little. All right, so what's everyone's number 2 then?
My number 2 is Adaptation.
All right.
Fantastic movie. It again. Oh, it's your number 1, Chris? Great. Then we can wait on that one. But it's a fantastic movie.
What's your number 3?
Oh, my number 3 is Con Air.
Oh my
It's
God.
the bunner. Like it's his over the top accent, if you guys haven't seen Con Air, anyone listening, of all the movies, I feel like Face Off and Con Air are the 2 that you absolutely have, and probably Adaptation. That was really good too. But like, if you want to see Nick Cage be absolutely insane and have a ridiculous fake long hair wig and have a ridiculous accent, and it's criminals on they hijack a plane and then land it in Las Vegas. I mean, like.
The premise of the movie is that he gets into a bar fight when he gets home from serving in the military, and he strikes a man who dies, and he's sent to prison because the judge deems that his arms are lethal weapons. So that's why he's given that's why he's given such a long service. And then of course they take when they have to transport the worst criminals in the world, he's put on this plane, and of course they take over, and it is fantastic. It is so ridiculous. Great Nick Cage movie.
Also, it
Just as
always
a
keeps
side note,
escalating.
That actually did happen to a very famous wrestler. We were just talking about wrestling on the last podcast. Razor Ramon Scott Hall killed someone in a bar fight,
Yeah.
and he did not serve any time because it was self-defense. But
Right.
I feel like Nick Cage, I mean, I get it. You know, Scott Hall's 6 foot, like 5, super ripped dude. But Nick Cage is I mean, I understand, you know, Nick Cage is way more deadly than Scott Hall. So, you know.
Lethal weapons. Yes.
Lethal
He's a
Weapon
great
national
cast as well.
icon.
John
Yeah.
Cusack, John Malkovich.
Yeah.
Also-
Oh, my God.
I'm sure a lot of people in the know have seen the meme or just like the GIF or the GIF or however you pronounce it of Nicolas Cage. Like there's wind hit him in the face and his long
Yes.
hair is just like
Yep.
that is
Yes.
Con Air. So if you've
That's
seen
Con
that
Air.
GIF or that GIF or however you pronounce it, that's Con Air and you should definitely watch it. It's insane.
Con
I
Air.
need to rewatch this movie. I saw this as a kid.
Oh,
Like,
you
there was
got-
a
it
definitely
restaurant
should.
and it was playing on a TV, and my mom was done, but I was so invested in the film. I was like 7, and I was
Yeah.
just watching Con Air, and I'm just like, this is great. I didn't even know it was
The
R.
Bundy. It's
But
it's
Yes.
good. All right, so that's that. All right, so jumping to number 2's, mine's is Kick-Ass. I think genuinely this is Nick Cage finally getting to do what he wanted to do, which is to be a superhero.
Yeah.
It goes to show that he would be an amazing Batman. He's an amazing Spider-Man noir. I hope he does a superhero movie eventually. I know he's getting older there in age, but he's still good in it. And I think like Kick-Ass really redefined the genre. I think we wouldn't have The Boys and even Super Marvel movies going a certain direction without Kick-Ass. Kick-Ass 2, terrible movie. And Nick Cage isn't in it. So, you know, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
Nick Cage, Kick-Ass, great. Not in Kick-Ass 2, not a good movie. But that's my number 2. Juan, what was your number 2?
My number 2 was Moonstruck because I saw this with my family. I love Moonstruck. I think that it is underappreciated in terms of Cage because he does a rom-com here and it was really great. I actually thought when I saw Cher was nominated, I looked up, I was like, is Cage nominated? And he wasn't. I'm here like, how was he not nominated for the Oscar too? It should have been both of them. I mean, come on, you can't have the iconic scene of, I think I'm in love with you, snap out of it without him. Like, he took the hit.
Yeah.
I think it's great. It's understandable why it's in the Criterion Collection. I love it. I will rewatch that like anytime it's on, really. And it's like the same thing with Kick-Ass. I feel he's underrepresented in terms of like everyone will go to Con Air, Face Off, The Rock, etc. But I feel Kick-Ass, he just didn't have like he was amazing, but some people just don't appreciate it enough.
Yeah.
And
What
I
he
agree.
did for it especially.
Yeah, and he should have gotten his superhero roles. Like you said, he's kind of like, you know what? I didn't get my Superman moment to be the Superman moment hero, but I'm going to be Superman in this moment. I'm going to kill a bunch of people. It's going to be bloody. It's going to be chaotic. I'm going to yell at the top of my lungs. And he did. And the teenage Will in me was like, this is fucking awesome. This is great.
Yeah.
This is where I became more of a Nicolas Cage fan.
And to be clear, he would eventually go on to play Superman in the Teen Titans Go to the movies. Nicolas Cage was cast as Superman in that movie. So he did, almost 30 years later, finally get to play Superman. Christian,
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
yours? What's your number 2?
My number 2 is Wild at Heart.
Oh my goodness, look at these beautiful movies you guys
Talk
are
about-
choosing.
I freaking love David Lynch. And again, like that combination of Brian De Palma and Nicolas Cage is just magic. David Lynch and Nicolas Cage is also magic because Lynch is a deranged human being and I love him deeply. And he grabbed Nicolas Cage and gave him the role that was just perfect for him. And he's basically playing Elvis throughout the movie, but like a pervier version of Elvis and just going insane. Laura Dern is also in it and it's fantastic. It's also like the whole movie is kind of like it takes like the Wizard of Oz and like rips it apart and makes it like super dark and scary and funny. And again, it all works and is held together by his central performance. He really sells it and you want to see this journey like to its, natural end. It's amazing. And again, it's him going unhinged. There's like a great dance sequence where he's just like having the time of his life. He's wearing this jacket all the time that I wish I owned. It's just it's one of those movies where you're watching, it's like, I got it. Like I want to be Nicolas Cage for a day, and if I could be Nicolas Cage in this movie for a day, that would be amazing.
There
And
are worse movies to be
it was-
Nicolas Cage in.
Yeah, oh for sure.
So it was my number 3, and it's very similar to what you were saying. The thing about this movie is David Lynch is just so off the reservation in most of the things that he's exploring. And if Nick Cage isn't so great in this movie falls apart. Like this movie turns into camp or it turns into parody. But Nick Cage is just in character so well that you just believe that this is just a super, super eccentric guy who thinks that he is the reincarnation of Elvis Presley. And he is absolutely in love and enamored with Laura Dern's character. And he does have that jacket, which there's this amazing quote about the jacket that he keeps saying over and over again, which I said to ad nauseum, and so my wife hates the quote now. But it is just this fantastic film, and it's weird, but it's weird in all the right ways. Wild at Heart, fantastic movie.
If you're into surreal stuff, it's for sure for you. Like it's that type of movie where it's like it's always going to take a left turn that you do not anticipate, and it'll keep taking that left turn, and you end up just like wondering like, how is this going to wrap up, and is it going to be satisfying? And it definitely is. It works perfectly well. And again, to Los's point, it is like held together by just like a magnificent performance from Nicolas Cage.
Yeah,
I think the movie won in Cannes, like in France.
Yes,
I think so, or he won or something. But yeah,
I'm pretty sure it won, but I don't think they were ever recognized, and it was way too weird for the Academy.
Good movie.
Yeah.
Carlos, what was your second?
My second is Adaptation, which is Chris's number one. So if we want to talk about it now, Adaptation, based on the book, it's Chris Cooper ends up winning an Oscar for this. Meryl Streep is in it, but Nick Cage plays a dual role. He plays twins, and he's really playing Charlie Kaufman. If you don't know who Charlie Kaufman is a really eccentric screenwriter who has written some of the best and weirdest movies of the last 25 years. He's fantastic. And Nick Cage is essentially playing a twin version of Charlie Kaufman. And again, the range and the subtlety that he finds in both of these characters, it's just phenomenal. I mean, just in the discussion we've been having about Nicolas Cage, where we talked about how he beat the hell out of everybody in Kick-Ass, how he's this eccentric, surreal character, Elvis impersonator in Wild at Heart, how in Con Air he's a lethal weapon with arms, but all of these things, he's so believable in all of them. And so, we forget because he's so out there, his personality is so crazy, and because there's so many parodies of him, when he does Adaptation and he is just so subtle and so subdued, and you're just like, man, God, this guy just has everything.
It is a phenomenal movie. Also, Charlie Kaufman wrote Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which amazing movie. So if you're into that movie, if you're into that type of like also surreal, weird, very high concept type movie, Adaptation kind of scratches that itch. It's amazing.
All right, so Christian, what was your number two?
My number two was Wild at Heart, and my number one was Adaptation. Adaptation is like easily one of my favorite movies of all time. Also because you get two Nicolas Cage for the price of one, and that is always great. And one Nicolas Cage is, as Lo said, like very nuanced, and he's playing Charlie Kaufman. He's like super anxious and like eccentric and like a writer, and he has like writer's block, and he's trying to be super ambitious about this adaptation of a book about flowers, and he goes a little deranged trying to write this script, which ends up being the movie you're watching, which again is insane. And his brother is just like a Nicolas Cage bro version, so he just says awful things, and he has like pickup lines that are just disgusting, but it works for him. And he writes terrible movies, but people buy his scripts instead of the other brother, and he's like, why? And then the genius of the whole thing is when that movie got nominated for best script, Charlie Kaufman and his brother Andy Kaufman are nominated. But again, Andy Kaufman does not exist. It's just a figment of like, it's just a character in the movie they wrote. So again, there's a lot of layers to this. It also feels very true to like what everybody associates with Nicolas Cage, which is he is unhinged, and everything he is in has to be equally unhinged or just like vibe on the same like energy level or whatever. And that is one of those where it's just like insane. Like you get the best of both worlds for Nicolas Cage, and it is by itself an amazing movie that's just like worth everybody's time. It's just so good. And if you ever suffer from writer's block, you'll get a lot out of it. It's very relatable.
All right, what's your number 1 and 2?
Yeah, my second was Moonstruck. My number 1 was actually Christian's number 5, and it was National Treasure.
He's gonna still steal the Declaration of Independence, dude. That's crazy.
Bro, I saw that movie before going to DC, and I literally saw the Declaration of Independence. I was like, oh my God, Nicolas Cage stole this. I was like, no, that didn't really happen. I was like, it happened in real life.
No, it did.
Get over it.
It did happen. We're confirming
it's a documentary.
It was a documentary. It was the only thing. It was one of those movies that I don't like history, But when Nicolas Cage is explaining history, this is the best history teacher I could have had. Like, this was amazing. Like, he'll steal the Declaration of Independence. He was using the blow dryer to get the code. Like, he was out here doing so many things that's like, this shouldn't be happening. But I'm loving every moment, and he is pulling it off. Continue.
Yeah.
I will see 11 more of these films if you have them. And then the second one was great, which I enjoyed, but I think the first one's better. And I
Have you
still
watched the
want the
show?
third one. I have not seen the show because I was like, okay, no Nicolas Cage. Well, I'll get to it eventually. It looks great.
I've been told to watch it. I've been told I haven't
Yeah.
seen it, but I've been told to watch it.
I don't
But again,
know,
if you
it's-
lose Nicolas Cage, you already lost
Right.
me a little bit. I miss
Kick-Ass
Matt
2, yeah.
Cage, you know? Like,
Yeah.
you can't replace him. They tried to replace Nicolas Cage with Jim Carrey, and it did not work in Kick-Ass 2.
Yeah. So real quick, I just want to give honorable mentions before we go to the final ones. I gotta say, movies to watch that are silly: Willy's Wonderland, wonderful movie; Color Out of Space, Sorcerer's Apprentice. I think that one is like a secret hidden gem that is actually
Yeah.
really, really good that not enough people talk about. Season of the Witch is bad. So I'm looking through all of these movies and I'm like, all right, Ghost Rider, Next is cool. He's got a ridiculous hairdo. His head, that was sort of the meme if you see the eagle on his head. They replaced his wig with his two pieces with an eagle. That's where that's from. Next, there's some good movies, some bad movies. City of Angels. And I just want to give
Based on a
special
great
thanks.
movie, though.
Yes.
Based on a great movie.
And Vampire's Kiss. Vampire's Kiss is one of probably the one that most people haven't seen that they should see. Absolutely, Nicolas Cage at his most unhinged. And then finally, I don't know if I already said it, but Mandy. Mandy is actually probably one of the best horror films. It's probably the best horror film he's been in, and one of the best horror films that you probably haven't watched. Go see it. He has a cool axe. He murders demons, takes acid. There's like a 6-minute one-shot scene where he's just in his chonies, just screaming. So go watch it. That's what would be mine. But yes, I've already said my number 1, 2, Face Off. That one, he
Great.
gets impaled with a harpoon. I mean, what
Great.
kind of action movie where you can say the villain was killed with a harpoon gun?
Not a lot. We
not a
need
lot
more
of
of those. We need more of those.
It's got John Woo. I mean, it's great. It's fantastic. And so ridiculous and so over the top. It's
And
so
actually
90s.
good
It's great.
action sequences. Like, yeah, I'm making fun of it, but it's also really, actually really good. Wonderful. John Travolta, Nicolas Cage. Both of them are monsters. Acting kings. That's my number 1. Carlos, what's your number 1?
Well, we did mention we were doing honorable mentions. I just want to bringing out the Dead, Scorsese film, late 90s.
Oh,
Really good, about an EMT who is seeing ghosts. He is slowly going crazy because the city and the stress is driving him crazy. It's not my number 1. It's honorable mention, but it's a film that kind of got lost, that people don't talk about all the time. Mark Anthony is in it. Mark Anthony gives a really good performance in it.
I forgot that he was trying to do acting for a little bit and stuff. I remember that.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's good.
Man on Fire. He's in Man on Fire, and it's in the same performance.
Yeah.
He's the father. Yes, and he's
He's the
really
father.
good in Man on Fire. He's a decent actor when he's applying himself.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's for our Mark Anthony rankings. My number 1, and this was a clear number 1 for me from the beginning. Probably only Christian seen it. I don't know. Raising Arizona. I'm a huge
Okay.
Coen Brothers fan.
Oh yeah! Yes, I
I
forgot about that. Sorry, my voice squeaked because yes, I remember Raising Arizona, dude.
I just adore that movie. I adore what Nick Cage does in it. If you've never seen the movie, it's a Coen Brothers dark comedy about a childless couple who really, really wants children. So they kidnap 2 children from a family who has 8 or 10 children. And it becomes this crime caper. And it is really, really just peak Coen Brothers. I love the film. And Nick Cage is so ridiculously dry pan funny in this movie. It is what
His
started
eyes.
my love affair with him. His eyes, oh my God.
Those
And
wide eyes,
he and
the
Holly
stash.
Hunter had this absolute chemistry to them. It's great. If you haven't seen Raising Arizona, please go watch Raising Arizona now. It's a fantastic movie.
Literally, you can see me adding this to my watch list because I haven't seen it, but I
Oh,
want
it's
to.
great.
Good.
Like, you
So
sold
good.
me on it. I want to see
It's
it.
good. It's funny. The thing is too. I think it's one of those rare moments where Nicolas Cage wasn't really being Nicolas Cage. He put like the role first before he put himself in it. Granted, because I think this was early in his career. But it really feels like the Raising Arizona was him just trying to portray that character and not so much be like, yeah. Like, I think that slips in there. There's a few times where that slips in there, but I think it's genuinely him being himself. Christian, did you already say your number one?
My number one was adaptation, but
yes,
honorable mention. I was going to say Raising Arizona because that movie is stellar. It's so good. Also, big Sam Raimi influences. There's a lot of like crash zooms, and the camera's always like floating above the ground. And there's like this weird bounty hunter that's portrayed almost like a demon that's following them on a motorcycle. He's rules.
Evil incarnate.
Yeah, that is a fantastic movie. It's almost family friendly, but not quite. But it kind of gets there. Like, you can watch it with other people. It's not as dark as other Coen Brothers movies, but it is amazing. The Rock was the other one I wanted to mention because Michael Bay loves blowing shit up. Nicolas Cage loves to blow shit up, and that is always good. So Michael Bay, The Rock, amazing. Sean Connery, Ed Harris, amazing movie. In that one, he is fully going like action movie deranged levels, of just like giving the biggest performance imaginable. It's amazing.
And a typical Michael Bay like crazy plot where the only way to sneak back into the Rock is to have some guy who snuck out 40 years ago swim his way underneath. That's the only plausible way that we can get in there. Just like it's easier to train drillers to be astronauts than astronauts to be drillers. Like, Michael Bay, classic plot, makes no sense, but you just on the ride.
And
you're
if you
in
tell
for
him
it.
that, he'll be like, shut up. How about that? How about you shut your mouth?
Exactly.
Shut up and look at this big explosion. He just blows something up.
Yep.
That's what he does.
Exactly. Yeah.
Honorable mentions. I always love the bad Nicolas Cage films because even when they're bad, he still sells it, and I appreciate that about him. Like, they did this film called Inconceivable, which we did WWE last week. There was a WWE superstar there that I was like, okay, Nick Cage and her, this should be interesting. It is awful. But I was like sold because this is a Lifetime original style movie, and I'm just here like trying to figure out how it's gonna end. Like, it is not great, but I loved it. I had Pig as an honorable mention, which Christian mentioned. It is so underappreciated. I thought Nick Cage was getting the Oscar again, but he did not. I thought he really, really deserved it. It's like the same thing that happened to Adam Sandler with Uncut Gems. I feel like they both should have gotten in, but the Oscars was like, nah, you guys aren't real actors.
I get you on that one.
Yeah. And then Willy's Wonderland, because only Nicolas Cage can have zero dialogue in a movie and do a Five Nights at Freddy's movie that better than it has any right to be.
Yeah.
Better than it has any right to be. And it's so entertaining. I own it on Blu-ray here somewhere. And the other one was Drive Angry. Because that was like my first introduction to unhinged Cage. Like, no, it's probably not going to age well. But
it did not. I watched some of it recently. It did not age well.
I mean, it's like I bought the DVD, saw it for the first time. It's like, I shouldn't be watching this, but I'm so entranced. What is Nicolas Cage doing here? Oh, he's blowing someone off with a shotgun. Got it. Yeah, I just feel like his bad films should be appreciated.
We should mention, you mentioned he was going to win another Oscar. The film that he did win an Oscar for is Leaving Las Vegas, where he plays an alcoholic who decides to go to Las Vegas and with the company of a sex worker played by Elizabeth Shue, he decides to drink himself to death. And it is a spiral towards oblivion. But again, played with humanity, played with heart, played with a subtlety that, again, in anybody else's hands, it falls apart. It's an Oscar-winning role for Nick Cage. Great movie. So yeah.
And I just want to say as a final note before we send this off, we did all of this because Renfield has not come out yet. I think Renfield is going to be a wonderful movie. For those of you that don't know, Renfield is it was sort of going to maybe be part of the Universal Dark Universe monster things. The gist of it is that this is a Universal monster movie, but a completely different direction than what we're used to. It's, if you've ever seen the old school Dracula, I feel like Renfield hasn't been in anything since the old school Dracula. But if you've read the book, if you've seen the movie, Dracula ends up taking control over this guy, and it becomes his like servant, like, yes, my master, like Igor kind of thing. So that's what Renfield is. So this movie is about Nicolas Cage's Dracula, which and he's doing the Bela Lugosi old school, Transylvania Dracula, and it's about Renfield played by Nicholas Hoult, I think, right? And he's Renfield, and so pretty much it's like a metaphor for abuse and getting out of abusive relationships. Looks funny, looks good. Can't wait to see it. I think we're all in the same boat on wanting to see Nicolas Cage as Dracula, right? I think.
Oh yeah,
Of course. Come on.
So yes, it comes out this week. Definitely go check it out. It's going to be a good time. We'll talk about it next time. Either way,
Underrated.
go check out all these movies. Nicolas Cage is wonderful. Clearly, there are at least 15 movies that we all agree are wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much for everyone. Juan, Carlos, Christian, thank you guys for being on the podcast. Sorry, I got my C's confused with each other. I was going to say Carlos twice. All right, so hey, and welcome to the all-time segment, or as we like to call it, The Vault. Every episode, I put something in the vault so that we can preserve a piece of art, movie, a book, a graphic novel, a novella, anything that we think is beautiful, wonderful, or just trashy and smutty, and we like it anyways. Doesn't matter. Christian, what do you want to put in the vault?
There's one amazing, I love horror movies, so I'll put that out there. There's one amazing Japanese horror movie called Cure that I highly recommend everybody watch. If you're trying to think of what to watch this year in October, I know it's a long ways ahead, but it's good to be thinking, or just like start the thinking process way ahead of time. Cure, amazing movie. It's about a detective trying to figure out a serial killer who hypnotizes people to commit murders.
I remember that movie. Oh my God. From 1997,
amazing.
that one.
Yep.
I'm looking up. Oh my goodness. I remember that
is
movie, the hypnotist movie.
One hell of a movie. It is unnerving. It is surreal as hell. It is gory. It is everything you want an actual horror movie to be when you want to get freaked out. So I highly recommend that one. It recently got a restoration, so it's looking beautiful. It is amazing. So I would put that in the vault for sure.
And I just want to say for that, I know we don't really see it. It's not big in our culture, but hypnotism is huge in Japanese culture. There's actually a few horror movies and like just movies in general where they discuss hypnotism that leads to other things. In a few Asian cultures too, you're going to find that. And it's going to lead me to my next one, because this is one that is really like, it also has hypnotism in it. And it's not from Japan, it's from Korea. It is going to be Old Boy. That's what I'm going to put in the vault. Old Boy has there's hypnotism in it, right? Like that's the whole gist of the. Yeah. So,
oh, buddy, without ruining it, yes, a big part of it.
Yeah, right. So Old Boy is 90% one of the greatest movies ever made. One of the greatest movies from Korea. It is about it was remade with Josh Brolin and Elizabeth Olsen. In America, but just watch the Korean version is better. It's about a guy that pretty much gets stuck in a room as punishment for something, and not like a prison. Like he's just stuck in a room. They won't even let him kill himself. They'll like save his life when he tries to kill himself. Really weird, really amazing. There's a hallway fight scene where he gets a hammer and he fights like 20 dudes. It's so cool. The twist at the reason we're laughing, at least the reason I'm laughing, is the twist at the end is the most unhinged, what the fuck moments you will.
There's a lot to talk about after you watch Old Boy. You will for sure watch it and you'll think about it like the cursed video in The Ring where you want to throw it at somebody else just so they can also experience the twist and then talk about it with them. It's that type of movie. It's fantastic. Yes,
it's wonderful. The American remake's not bad, but the old school original Old Boy is so damn good that it makes the remake look pretty bad. And it's Korean horror thrillers at its best. That's what we're putting in the vault, everyone. Thank you so much. So what do you guys think? Are these worthy of being in the vault? Do you want to see other Japanese, Korean, Asian horror films that you want us to talk about put in there? Exactly. So if you want us to talk about, put those kind of movies in there. Be sure to like and follow. Follow us on social media. I'm at the Storytime Guy. Christian, do you have any socials you want them to follow you on?
I guess my Instagram, Christian Jatar M. That's my Instagram.
Perfect. Christian Jatar, that's Jatar, right?
Yep, correct.
There you go. And Christian Jatar, follow him, follow me. And as always, everyone, that's been The Vault. Okay, everyone, you heard the show. I have to get a Nick Cage marathon started. If I start today, I should end sometime in this lifetime because I got to watch him once, got to watch him twice, got to watch him 3 times because it's Nick Cage. And so I just have to say thank you before I go to Christian, to Juan, to Carlos. Thank you to everyone listening. You guys are awesome. Follow me on my socials or else. And as always, everyone, have a magical day.